Texans stunk it up, blew a game they should have won. I know that never happened to you in your career. What do you feel about what jumps out at you about that game?
You know what jumps out are the missed opportunities, the missed plays. Everyone's talking about the Lawrence Vickers missed catch. If he was able to haul that in, get into the end zone, then they had a chance to get the 2-point score. And also the last play of the game where Matt Schaub, should he have run it, should he have thrown it? That's a debate that's going to last forever. Well, I take that back. It's going to last until they go to Baltimore, because once they face the Ravens, nobody's going to be thinking about the Oakland game. But that's just something you go back and forth. If you ask 10 people, you're going to hear 5 answers one way, 5 answers the other way. That game really showed me that Kevin Walter can be your guy if you just give him a chance. He's another one of these Texans that people say he's not as good as people that the organization thinks he is. He doesn't have that many stats. Well, he doesn't have that many stats because they have so many weapons on that Houston Texan offense. With Andre Johnson being out for the next few weeks, they targeted Kevin Walter a little more, and he answered the question. He had 5 catches, 81 yards. One of the most amazing catches that you're going to see for the entire season was because of Kevin Walter. This is a guy that I played with, I respect, I love his work ethic. He could do it all, and he needs to have more respect. And if he continues to play the way he did in that losing effort, he'll get that respect.
The receiving game, specifically Kevin and the tight ends, were not the problem in that game. 51 passes, only 1 was dropped. That was by David Anderson, who was the 3rd receiver in place of the injured Bryant Johnson. The big news, of course, your guy, Mario Williams, done for the year, is going to have surgery on a torn pectoral muscle. How is that going to affect the defense?
Oh, that's huge. I mean, especially going into Baltimore, where it's going to be a defensive struggle. Baltimore has one of the most vicious defenses in the NFL, and right now the Texans' defense is starting to step up. You're starting to see the Wade Phillips influence on this Texan defense, and the guy who was really stepping up was Mario Williams. He went from a 4-3 defensive end to this outside linebacker. He was getting comfortable every single day in practice and in the games, and you just saw the improvement. 5 sacks in 5 games. This guy was on his way to the Pro Bowl. It's really disappointing for someone that knows and cares about Mario to see that his season's just going to end. And I won't be surprised if this is the last time you see him in a Houston Texan jersey.
Oh, give me a break. They're going to re-sign him, and they can franchise him if he doesn't agree to a contract.
But you never know.
You think they're going to let him walk away?
It all depends on his back.
Said.
It all depends on his backup and if he really wants to play. Right now, he was getting more comfortable as an outside linebacker, but does that mean he was as comfortable as he was with a hand in the dirt defensive end? That's
doesn't
a question.
Matter. He's not going. That's why they got the franchise tag.
No, well, Brooks Reed, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I actually doubt it's going to happen. But if Brooks Reed ends up having 8 to 10 sacks, they can say, you know what, Mario, we don't have to give you that $70 million contract that the market's going to demand. We'll just let you go. Thanks for your time.
Well, if they have any doubts, that's why they franchise him for 1 year. Then wait and see what happens. Brooks Reed had 4 tackles. He hit the quarterback twice. But he's got so much to learn. He's learning a new position. He's got to be interchangeable with Connor Barwin. He can't cover like Connor, which means Connor's going to continue to have to drop when he's up and then rush when he's down. But I think they're very fortunate to have used that second-round pick on Reed. A couple of years ago, they'd have been bringing up some backup linebacker that was lucky to be on the team. So depth helps them a lot. Now, the best thing they did in this game was they shut down the league's leading running game, the league's leading rusher. If you take away Rock Cartwright's 35 yards on a fake punt, they had, 51 yards rushing. How did they do it?
Well, they wrapped up, they tackled, they went to the fundamentals, and every man was in a gap. When you talk about Darren McFadden, who was coming into this game, the leading rusher in the NFL, only rushing for 51 yards, that means they did everything right. So you can't just point to one person or one technique and say that's what they did perfectly. They did it all. They gang tackled, they pursued, they took the right pursuit angles. Wade Phillips was making the right run blitzing calls, and the players were executing it the way it needed to be executed. I thought that was impressive. And on the flip side, the Oakland Raiders, they did a good job holding Arian Foster, who I believe is the best back in the NFL, to only 68 yards on 22 carries. And what they did, they had backside pursuit. Because one thing that makes Arian Foster so special, he'll start going one way, then he'll just hit and find that gap going in the different direction. And they did a good job of bringing their backside help to make sure that there wasn't that gap that he usually likes to hit.
They were not going to let him cut back no matter what. And they were doing it a lot of times with 8-man fronts, which is amazing to me. They couldn't throw the ball down the field better and back them out of that. Everybody's ready to run Matt's job out of town. You know, Matt Matt has cost them 2 games in 2 years. The Baltimore game last year, overtime interception, and this one, people forget that he won the Washington game last year. He won the Kansas City game with a great comeback, and he put them ahead with 55 seconds left against the Jets, put them ahead against Denver. There were 3 other times that he put them ahead, and the defense blew the game. Do you think they need to go after a new quarterback? How do you feel about his performance?
Well, I mean, he had a bad day, but Matt Schaub is a good quarterback. There isn't a quarterback that you can get that's going to be better than Matt Schaub. You could point with any position, with any player. You could point to certain series, certain scenarios and say he could have done that better, he could have done this better. But I disagree with the statement you made as far as he won or he lost. This is the ultimate team sport. And when they played the Washington Redskins, yes, he played magnificent and he led them to the victory, but I don't think he won. And I'm just playing with your words, and I'm taking a twist.
Who caught that winning touchdown
Andre
pass?
Johnson, and that's my point.
And who caught it against Kansas City?
Andre Johnson. And you could further that question and say who blocked for him. Then you name everybody on the offensive line. I think it's an ultimate team sport, and it's unfortunate that the quarterbacks get too much blame when they lose, and they get too much credit when they win.
That's why they get paid the big bucks. Now, I thought it was pretty cool the way, last year Joel Dreesen had a higher average per catch than Andre. People be shocked about that. The way he and Owen Daniels stepped up as receivers, but also Arian Foster. How do you feel about their tight ends?
Oh, I mean, these tight ends are amazing. Owen Daniels is the one who's going to get the credit. He's the one who's most likely going to go to the Pro Bowl because he's going to have more opportunities. But what I like about Joel Dreesen, this was a journeyman. This was a man who's been cut multiple times, but he found a home here in Houston, and he does any and everything. And I remember in the locker room, he would spend another hour after practice, after our meetings, just making sure his body was right, getting in and out of the hot and cold tub, doing the stretches that you need to do, doing extra lifting. This is a guy who understands the NFL is a privilege, and you see it. It's starting to pay off on the field. They target him. He answers the call, just like I said about Kevin Walter. Joel Dreesen is a very good tight end.
I forgot he dropped that pass that Kubiak should never have challenged because there wasn't one replay that showed it conclusively, and they could have used that tight end in the end. Now, everybody's mad at Jacoby Jones. 11 targets, 1 catch for 9 yards. He didn't step up. I thought he would. How do you feel about him as a second receiver?
Well, right now, I think Kevin Walter, with Andre Johnson being out, should be your primary target. Then Jacoby Jones should be the second receiver because you're right. He didn't step up. He didn't do what we expected him to do. He showed a lot of maturity early on in this season. And to be targeted 11 times, we could all argue how many of those were good passes or catchable passes and how many weren't. But some of the routes, he rounded off. It looked like he could have had more sharp turns. And especially on that last play, he could have given Matt Schaub a better chance to make that throw, even though I personally think Matt Schaub should have tucked it in and dove right into the touchdown. But what do I know? I never played quarterback. Jacoby Jones has definitely have to raise his game up. They awarded him with a 3-year deal before this season, a 3-year extension. Now it's time for him to show the team and the fans why he received that.
He shouldn't be making those mental mistakes. One thing that bothered me, Matt's rolling out. He's back about the 11-yard line. If he had crossed that line, everybody would have closed in. But if your quarterback's running to the left, the receiver needs to go that way to make it easier to throw. And he just stood there and made him do it like this. And to me, that's another example of not inexperience, but just not football smarts. You've got to help your quarterback in that situation, and Jacoby Jones didn't do it.